Welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman, the podcast dedicated to helping you build the business of your dreams and live the life you always hoped for, with valuable and fun tips and info to make your life easier and more fun. And now, here's your host, a man who sprinkles metal shavings on his breakfast cereal just for fun, Jason Silverman.
Hello everybody and welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. I'm your host Jason Silverman and I'm thrilled to share some time with you today. As you know, I'm always in the hunt for interesting as well as super smart real deal guests, and I gotta tell you, today's show is a winner. I want to introduce my listeners to somebody who's truly been there and done that, and I'm excited to pick his brain for your benefit today. Now, for the folks who I work with in any of my coaching programs, my mastermind group, or through Power Forward's character development, or Silverman Consulting, or the 7-Figure Formula group, you know how much I focus on the importance of effective, sustainable business systems and updated marketing strategies, right? Well, the show is going to help us to do just that. So, today it's going to be my honor and privilege to share an amazing resource with you. You're going to love today's guest. He's got a ton of valuable info as well as a fun way to deliver it. So, I want you to strap yourself in. Today's show is going to be a blast. As I'm sure you already know, I'm committed to helping business owners just like you to become more successful, enjoy your career more, and in general, make your life significantly more fun. As you know, we only get one ride on this merry-go-round, folks. Let's make sure it's one hell of a ride, shall we? Alrighty, boys and girls, it is now that time. I want you to stop surfing Facebook, put away your phone, your tablet, your dog, your cat, your spouse, your child, anything that might possibly distract you from today's show. You're about to get some great and immediately implementable information, and I don't want you to miss even a second of it. So, before we officially get going, let me give you a little bit of background about our special guest expert today. Ben Stocks became an entrepreneur at a young age. He started a gym when he was 20 years old and eventually fell in love with marketing when he saw the power of it to transform his business. He then started to coach and do marketing for his friends in the wellness and martial arts world to grow their businesses. Eventually, Ben sold his business and went full-time into coaching and marketing. He now helps busy martial arts schools, gyms, Pilates studios, and others in the wellness industry to 2 up to 10 times their revenue by creating sustainable systems that build businesses that last and create freedom for the owners. Alrighty, folks. Ben, welcome to The Real Deal. I'm thrilled to have you.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
The pleasure's mine. So, listen, before we officially get started, for those out there who haven't had the opportunity and pleasure of meeting you or hearing you speak, take a second, if you would, share your story with our listeners. You know, what are you passionate about? What makes you tick? Who is Ben Stocks?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I sit down with business owners, like I always tell them, especially local business owners, right? It's like I tell them, I am you, in a sense, where it's like when I started my business, like you mentioned, at 20 years old, and the reality kind of hits you of, man, I've got a lease now, and I got to take care of staff, and this is real. When all that became real to me, I really, my passion at the end of the day is about helping people in that boat, right? So helping people who are local business owners who have real facilities, like real businesses, and they're worried about client, retention. They're worried about their staff, and they're worried about paying the rent and all that fun stuff. As opposed to, I didn't get my start like many people in the, quote unquote online marketing world where, they think that, man, marketing might be a good way to make some money or whatever it may be. And they just don't know the struggles of the local business owner, and I find that to be, a lot of business owners have trouble dealing with those people because number one, they're not looking at it from their perspective. And number two, just like, for example, they probably get hit up by SEO people 24/7, stuff like that. And those people don't know their daily struggles, but they also don't know SEO. So it's like they kind of struggle and they're just looking for, to leech off of local business owners. So again, my passion is giving real information that actually helps them because it helped me. And that changed my life, and, I hope to change their lives.
I love it. It makes sense. So I guess I got to ask the hard question, why should anybody listen to you?
Yeah, I think because it's, I've been there, done that. And what I mean by that is doesn't mean that I know everything, but I think, like I mentioned, when I signed up, to take on a lease and open my first facility, and, I was married at the time, and it was like, man, this is real. This is something that I have to do. And what's cool is I got my feet wet in local business ownership and in marketing and things like that by doing it. I didn't take a course. I didn't, just have someone walk me through it and just help me with the money and things like that. I had a rent, I had staff, I had to support them and support my family, and I did it by doing, right? So that's really what it's all about. And of course, from then on, I've learned from a ton of mentors. I wouldn't be there without them. I've learned from different masterminds, different coaching programs, different courses, all that fun stuff. And I continue to stay on the cutting edge, but really it's because I've been there, done that. It's like I didn't show up one day from the internet, quote unquote. I actually had to do it to, survive. And then, again, saw the transformative power of that, especially marketing, and just fell in love with it.
Well, obviously the passion shines through. So what would you say, obviously you're working with a ton of clients now. What would you say are some of the biggest marketing mistakes that you see businesses making right now?
Sure. Well, a quote that really stuck with me from a mentor of mine, Paul, when I was early on starting my business, was the idea of pros pay, right? So, I see so many local business owners, especially, where they're really hesitant to get into paid advertising. And I get it because it's scary, right? They'd be like, why would I pay, to acquire a customer when money's tight already? But really, it just gives you such an incredible, clear advantage when it comes to getting the word out there, getting new clients, whatever. When you really learn the ins and outs of paid advertising, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever it may be, it gives you a clear competitive advantage. And the way to think about it, if you're a local business owner, is, if that fear that you fear, the fear that you feel, when it comes to paying for advertising, that's the same fear that all your competitors have, right? It's like they're afraid to take the leap in that. So when you do it, your competitors are not doing it. So it's just going to give you a clear advantage. And, to go on to my next point too, another big mistake is not knowing their numbers, right? So I think this feeds into the fear that most local business owners have. And, when I speak about knowing your numbers, a big one, if you're just getting started out in marketing, whatever it may be, and you're nervous to pay for a Facebook ad or whatever it may be, is your lifetime customer value. Start there. For example, if you're a martial arts studio and you're, doing a cheaper front end offer, trying to get people in the door, but that 70% of the people who opt in for your front end offer and come in for, let's say, 3 weeks or whatever it may be, stick around for 6 to 8 months and they pay you $150 a month. You know how much now what you can spend to acquire that customer. And, I promise you, 90% of the local businesses, your competitors out there, don't know that. And that's when you can confidently outspend them. And, if you're into marketing at all, you're listening, and you're a Dan Kennedy fan, for example, he has a famous quote where he said, the number one advantage in business is the ability to spend more to acquire a customer. So that's really a bold claim there. So I know knowing your numbers will allow you to confidently do that. And, you'll be able to really dominate the local market if you do that. And then the other one would just be poor messaging. And this is no fault of their own. It's hard to do this. But, ultimately the big eye opener for me was realizing that nobody ultimately cared about me or my business. They didn't exist thinking about what I did. They care about themselves, right? They care about the result that we can give them. And, that comes down to, there's a quote I always remind myself. It's, sell the destination, not the flight. And I see many business owners, when it comes to marketing their business, they think it's about the square footage, or they think it's about how cool they are, or how many certifications they have, or whatever it may be. But that would be the equivalent of being like a travel agent and saying, you're going to be seated on row 2 and you're going to be traveling 3 hours to get to the beach. And, you're going to be flying on this jet, focused on the features instead of, painting the picture for their client that, man, you're going to be sitting on the beach with a pina colada, right? And that's what, the shift for business owners, especially local business owners, I see. It's really an eye-opening moment for them to really dial in that messaging and focus on the results you can give clients. And then the last thing would just be not understanding, top of mind awareness. And I'm sure you hear this all the time, Jason, but, many people saying, people know we're here. People have heard about us. They know we're here. We've been here for 15 years. Like, people know about us. And, the reality is we think about our business 24/7, but 99.999% of the world, especially in your local market, does not, right? They're worried about their own issues, and they're exposed to thousands of advertisements per day So if you're not aggressively out there in the marketplace, I mean, you're basically forgotten, right? So we want to flood the marketplace with us, right? We want to get out there in front of people. So when the problem that we solve gets to the top of their to-do list, they think of us, right? And that would be those biggest things.
That's absolutely brilliant. So let's talk about flooding the market with us for a second.
Yeah.
What would you say to an owner who is, open-minded and rocking and ready to go? What would be the first step to starting that flood, that surge?
Yeah, well, I think to dip your toes in the water, you should put feelers out with content. So the great part, I'm certainly more introverted. It may not seem like it, and it's weird that I got into marketing and sales and all that, being more introverted. But especially if you are and you don't love networking and all that fun stuff, like me, it's tough for me to just introduce myself and hand out business cards and all that. So, the gift of social media, I see many people just kind of squandering it, right? So what I like to do is tell people to put feelers out with different messages and different offers, whether it's through, tools like Facebook Live and posts and things like that, and seeing what resonates with people. And really, that's the way that you can market research, right? It's like you can get a feel for the real feedback. It's not, you don't bet the farm on, your first Facebook ad and spend all types of money and hope it works, right? You can test the market for free by making these posts and things like that and see what resonates and see if you can get a few people in the door that way. And of course, there's other methods. Of course, you want to be networking and, connecting with people in the local community. That's all extremely valuable. And I don't want to, downplay that in any way, shape or form. I think you should be doing all of it. But really just put feelers out there and see what resonates with people. And then you'll feel a little more confident with your messaging when you go to paid traffic and things like that.
Well, I mean, and I agree wholeheartedly. The challenge with, networking is great. All that other stuff is good. It's just completely unscalable.
Sure.
I mean, you can't say, listen, I need another 40 new members. I'm going to go to a mixer.
And that's, I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, because when I hit a wall with my business, and this is when I turned to learning marketing and things like that, and especially when Facebook ads were taken off, and I told myself, like, man, I am killing myself here. I'm putting out yard signs at night. I'm going to those networking events, whatever. And I told myself, I was like, I literally cannot work any harder. There's only so many hours in the day. And I was like, how am I going to grow? It's like, because I thought, if you worked hard and you were good at what you did, then people would come to you, right? That was the way I was raised. And there's an element of that. But, to learn that, yes, there are scalable methods out there, it opened my eyes in a crazy way. And that's what I enjoy seeing on, the business owners I work with, where they're like, man, this is easy. It's crazy. Once you kind of crack the code, it's fun,
Well, one of the things I see you speak about so often, and it's something near and dear to my heart, is the importance of business systems. In your world, why do you feel that business systems are just so important?
Well, we're in business, to make an income and to make a difference. And, for those things, with something that important where it's, I know a lot of people, their legacy and the impact they want to make on the world, and obviously their family's stability, income and livelihood is on the line when they go to business. Like, this isn't a joke, right? When you get in the gladiator ring of being a business owner, this is no joke. So it's unfortunate when I see business owners not having any system in place for lead gen, for their finances, for whatever it may be. And to me, it's not stable, right? It's like there's no stability. And like you mentioned, scalability is so important, but also just not knowing what's going to happen next month. Because if your business is built around a person, it's susceptible to things that persons do, right? that people do. It's getting sick and a key employee quits and things like that. And if the whole business is built around a person and their instability, then your business is obviously unstable. And that's not good enough for me, right? If I'm going into business, I need systems for everything. To provide stability, because it's important that, my family and my legacy, I want to protect that. So I want to develop systems for, everything in my business. To me, business comes down to three things. It's about operations, finances, and marketing. And, many times I think businesses have a system in place for operations and, they probably have some handle on their finances. Of course, those could all be better, but I'm just assuming, again, using martial arts as an example, with operations side of it, if you're on the floor and you're doing things, you're probably decent at what you do. Finances, if you've been in business for a while, you probably have a decent handle on it. It again, could all be better, could be more, more effective. But then the marketing, I see people are just kind of willy-nilly, right? They just go with this, it was a bad month, or this, that, and the other. Whereas if you had a repeatable system that's nailed down, you don't have to worry about those bad months.
Well, there should really never be a bad month if you're looking at your numbers. So,
Sure.
I hear people on the 28th tell me, well, this was a bad month. Well, did you just realize that now?
Yep.
Because on the 3rd, it was starting to be a bad month.
Yep. And, the cool part about it, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, Jason, is like, and you can attest to this, is like everything gets better when it's recorded and when it's looked at. Anything. So if you're in weight loss or whatever, it's like if you check your body fat percentage every week, by default, you're going to be better, right? It's like because you're aware. And I think just awareness, and there's so many people who hide from that because they don't want the pain of seeing, a number that might be, when it comes to finances, lower than they thought. But really, the best business owners I know are just crazy clear on everything in their business. Like they've got a handle on it. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
No, that totally makes sense. What if you actually, when you think of your clients, what would be one thing that you would tell them to stop doing right now?
One thing to stop doing. I think building. One thing to stop doing. I'll put some thought into that. I think thinking that, again, we're kind of in a guru-ish space, especially when you're dealing with people in the service industry and things like that. And I think that everyone thinks that you have to wow everyone, so it's kind of the joke about maybe a personal trainer, right? Who, every picture on their website is them with their arms crossed, looking all ripped and all that fun stuff. And again, just they think, their mom thinks that looks cool, right? Their mom's impressed. And that's the problem. They're getting feedback from people in their close circle with their families, whatever, but they're forgetting about at the end of the day, if your potential customer doesn't like it, they're not coming, right? And if they look at your website or your Facebook page or whatever, and they don't see themselves and they don't see you as the solution, then they're not coming, right? It's like people come because they think that you can serve them and you can help them. So step outside yourself, start to think about your customer as, that's everything and not so much your product, right? So to give you a really simple example, I see a lot of people, let's say they make a Facebook Live, right? And they're announcing a new program in their Pilates studio, martial arts studio, gym, whatever. And, the Facebook Live starts and they're like, hey guys, we're announcing this brand new program and it's going to have this and this and it's going to be great. So sign up now. And it's just such a missed opportunity. Whereas if they came at it from the angle of, again, let's just take martial arts as an example. Maybe they start with a caption that says, hey, do you have a child who suffers from, just lack of focus in the classroom and it just drives you crazy? It's like, wow, you've now described that person's problem clearly to them. And when you describe their problem, they'll trust you with the solution, right? So now you can say, well, here's the great news. We're starting up a new program where we work with kids one-on-one to develop discipline and to kind of, move their body and get them so they're not so, off the wall, crazy or whatever. That's way more effective. Again, and the lesson there is you're starting with your potential client instead of starting with yourself, right? Because people tune out, right? They're like, oh, cool, another program, and apparently it's the best thing in the world, whatever. And that's a mistake.
Right. It's here, buy my shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, hey, and then they're like, I don't get people. It's like, well, you're in a flood. You're dealing with nowadays, not only, your local market, right? You're dealing with all these online programs, whatever it may be. And, we can't just kind of, I guess to use a basketball terminology, we can't just throw the ball towards the rim, right? We can't just like throw it up there and, thinking that you're the only voice and they're just going to take you because you're the last option. We need to be professionals about it, right? We need to be the best at delivering the clearest possible message and defining that we are the people who can help you, right? It's like, that's the end of it. It's like, if you don't need to look at anybody else, we're here. We're the best in the business. We're here to help you. And you do that by knowing your market better than anyone else.
That makes sense. As we pull into this new year, or as we record this in call it the first week and a half of January of 2019, I'm curious, what do you feel folks have been doing in 2018 that doesn't work in 2019, or we should be careful about doing in 2019?
I think in general, the days of just throwing up offers nonstop on social media are going away to a certain extent. Because again, there's a really famous copywriting book called Breakthrough Advertising. Probably get it on Amazon for like $300 or something. And he talks about the market and how markets shift and markets change, and your messaging has to change with that, right? And people forget that. They rest on their laurels, and they're like, well, we've always run this 21-day challenge, and we're going to keep doing it because it worked last year and it's going to work this year. And as the market changes, and obviously if you've had success with that in the past, what does that mean? That means copycats are going to come in and copy your messaging, right? And then that floods the market with the same old thing. And now that can't differentiate you anymore. Whereas now I think and again, I'm not someone who's hardcore into brand building, whatever it may be, but building your brand and delivering content that shows that you're the solution, that maybe has some soft offers in there, some soft sells. Say, hey, if you like this video and you want to come in, we'd love to have you. I think that's great, but I think people need to warm up their audience more, as opposed to resting on, man, we're just going to hit people with offers 24/7 and hope that works. Now that's better than nothing, right? But I think people need to look a little bit more on the brand building side and the content side, as opposed to just hardcore, let's just say direct response selling all the time. I think that's going to be a big shift in 2019.
Okay. Totally fair. All right. It's time for our resource of the week. So tell me this, how can my listeners find out more about you and really how you go about helping entrepreneurs to succeed? Sure.
Well, probably the best way would just be to connect with me and on my personal Facebook page. So if you just look up Ben Stocks, BenStocks, you can just connect with me personally. I really like to connect with people on a one-on-one basis and kind of see your life. I'm not going to stalk you or anything, but just see your life and see you as a real person. And then shoot me a message on there, and just look for me and connect on there and shoot me a message, and we can chat. I'd love to help.
That's awesome. So folks, head over onto Facebook and go ahead and check out Ben Stocks and connect. If it's something that he can help you with, he is most certainly the man. So if I could, let me ask one telling question. If you could give business owners just one solid piece of advice to either help their business or probably more importantly, help them to live a better life, what would that piece of advice be?
I think be more proactive about looking at the problems. Don't hide from it. Because I think clarity helps with everything, and problems get bigger when you look away from them. So I think whether it's in something as simple as a marketing campaign, right, or we talked about finances in your business, or obviously in their personal life, right, avoiding the problem and just having that nagging in the back of your head subconsciously, it's just going to pull you down, and you're not getting rid of that problem by looking away from it. So, for example, if you need to look at it, you need to define it, and then you can solve it, right? And then what's cool is the problem gets smaller when you look at it, which is really exciting. So, get clarity on where there's problems, be ruthless about, getting them and solving them, and you'll be good.
Brilliant. Ben, this is awesome. Thanks so much for joining me today. I know how busy your schedule is, so it means the world to me that you'd share some time and a whole bunch of wisdom with us.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks a lot. It was great.
Absolutely. Folks, that's all the time we've got today. Thanks so much for tuning into The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. For more info about private coaching or to see if you'd benefit from a mastermind group, visit me over at www.jasonmsilverman.com. I look forward to helping you achieve the success that you truly deserve. Until next time, let me leave you with this. Get out there and be the real deal. Set a goal, make a plan, work like hell towards it, and achieve the success that's waiting for you. Now's the time. Get out there and make it happen. This has been Jason Silverman, and I hope you have a spectacular week.
You've been listening to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. To access the great resources mentioned in the show and for information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities with Jason, please visit jasonmsilverman.com.